morning, Asheville. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jess, Erica, Sean, the whole team here, and the Kaufman Foundation, of course. We are 1 Million Cups Asheville, and I'm proud to be a presenter this morning. Before we take off on this trip, I am your field trip guide today. I need you to scan my cute little QR code. They're trending, you might not have noticed, but they're all the rage. So please take a minute, take out your phone. I know Jess just told you to send it away. I'm also going to circulate some real life QR codes in case that doesn't work out for you. You can pass it around, take a little picture. You know how these things work by now. So, as Jess said, I am Rose Kaz. I am the founder of the LBI Backstage Pass. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, as I mentioned, I'm going to lead you on a trip. We are in Asheville, so this is a metaphorical trip. What I need you to do is close your eyes, please. After you put your phone away, close your eyes. Awesome. So you're closing your eyes and you're imagining with me, just for a minute, a space that is curated specifically for women in business, so that we can have all the tools and resources that we may need to build, grow, scale, and sustain businesses. Now, please keep your eyes closed. You're probably thinking more than half of the people in this room are men, or at least they appear to be men, and I just want you to all know that this conversation is for everyone, because I know fully that a woman-led world is going to be better for everyone, all of us. So stick with me here. So we're in this space. It's both virtual and real life. And it's a very curated space, specifically with high-level networking for women in business. Think like a Lady Boss LinkedIn, right? But there's really good music, awesome decor, fabulous content. It's been really designed quite well. Think maybe like a matriarchal MySpace. I might be dating myself a little bit there. I am a vintage millennial, after all. And lastly, think perhaps this platform that meets both virtually and in person has social justice at its forefront, right? It has business activists that are taking the charge to actually put our money where our mouth is. So it's a little bit like a feminist Facebook. Now stick with me, because I know Facebook was founded by a bunch of guys in their dorm room talking smack about ladies. True story, fact check it, it's real. But we know that there's better ways to do things. So I have built social media by women, for women. Next slide, please. You can open your eyes. The LBI Backstage Pass was launched in the fall of 2021. Now, back the tape up a little bit. In 2017, I started having conversations with women from various demographics, backgrounds, skill sets, fields, leadership positions, because I had found in my third year of business and running a production company that while I had the hard skills of slanging cameras, I was working in photo and video production, I didn't really have the soft skills to run my business as successfully as I had seen some of my mentors. Now, I do appreciate all the knowledge they had imparted on me, but hashtag me too, I wasn't really down for all of the ethos of business, so to speak. So I started curating these conversations and found that not only was I helping myself, but a lot of women around me through these conversations were really compelled to take their business to the next level. So speed the tape forward, next slide please. And what we've done is we've pulled together a bunch of data, stats that I'm sure some of you have seen and maybe others have not, where we know that, for example, only 20.9% of businesses are owned by women in this country. We make up over half of the population, so I mean, I'm not great at math, but that's not an awesome stat. So we aim to make this a larger number. We also know that in 2021, during the great COVID pause, many people started to reconsider what their business dealings, what their work-life balance actually looked like. So what we've done is we've pulled together resources, myself at the helm, and I was able to get an SBA loan in 2021 to launch this theoretical project into the real atmosphere, if you will. We built this platform, which now has a global reach and a membership of over 300 people since we launched in late 2021. And now that we've left beta here in 2022, we're seeing an upsurge of many, many women coming to the platform, supporting their businesses, and also growing their reach. If we can go to the next slide, please. One of the big things that I'm really excited about with the Backstage Pass is that we have the opportunity to not only network, but to lean into doing business differently. That is the fundamental thing that we're doing on the platform as we pull back the curtain on how business is done and really flip the script on how we share our tools and resources. And I won't read all of these fine points, but if you are a woman in business, you know that any one of these things is definitely something to be solved for. And we had an amazing event here in Asheville on March 31st at the Masonic Temple, where we spoke and focused specifically on getting women access to funding. Now, we talk about funding, we talk about activations in politics, roles of leadership, and also taboo topics like self-care, love, and how to maintain your sanity while you're driving a business, also driving a business. And that's universal. We know that running a business is really, really crazy. So we are taking a holistic approach to connecting women to the tools and resources and also uniting our community. I see community as a way of commerce, not just as commerce and how we can make money, but how we can truly support, really flipping the script on how we do business. And I know we're here in Asheville. We were all very aware of what was happening in 2020. But my question is to you is what we can do in 2022, 23, 24, and moving on where our businesses, whether we are women, men, theys, or thems, and can actually affect social change by putting our money where our mouth is. Next slide, please. And so, as I've mentioned a few things, we're doing a little bit different on the Backstage Pass. We're solving for some problems, but we're also wanting to aggregate a variety of women that we see coming together globally in a more sustainable and succinct way, because I truly believe that together we'll be able to affect more social change by putting our money where our mouth is. And to our last slide, where I need your help. Ultimately, you can tell your friends, if you know a woman, if you are a woman, if you're interested in being a supporting part of this founding community, spread the word. This QR code, I love QR codes, I don't know if you've noticed. This QR code takes you straight to our sponsorship page, and we have a variety of opportunities for sponsorship, whether it's through our events and programming, whether it's our in-person conversations, or other ways that you might see as somebody who's a founder here in Asheville to help us keep this mission going forward. So thank you again, Jess, Erica, Sean, and the whole team, and the Kaufman Foundation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. For the audience right now at this time?
Yes.
Hi. So your stats are everywhere accurate, and there's even more damning when you look at venture capital differences between men and female members. But Asheville has always been kind of unique with a very high percentage of female-run businesses and a very high percentage of female participation in our workforce. And as you've been in parts of the country running some events, what is it unique about Asheville that's created this environment where women entrepreneurs are thriving?
This is an awesome question. What's your name?
I'm Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. I love this question because this particular pocket, not just North Carolina, WNC is an incredible, and that's what I found when I was, COVID table for one, Quarantina, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with this production company that was working globally, right? Giant timeout. And so started reaching out to SBTDC, Mount BizWorks, and was like, my mind was blown as to the resources specific to this region. In fact, I got an SBA loan last May, so I'm coming up on my little loan anniversary, through the work directly with Chris Slaughter. High five to that guy, he's amazing over at the SBTC, who was like, you need to go ahead and get a loan. This is like the best loan you will get for years. And I was funded, and that's how this thing has even gotten this far, right? And so what I've noticed, and particularly in doing that event on March 31st, is we invited Mount BizWorks, SBTDC, 80 Tag, and we also had a virtual version. These people, like people who were coming to the event for the first time or people who were tuning in online were like, wait, for real? How did I not know this? And that's another reason why I was like, push the gas on this platform, because there are many resources. I was eavesdropping on a conversation, this gentleman here, Mike, I was listening to you talk about the Tech conference on Wednesday. I would have participated in the conversation. I was just a little nervous for my chat. But even that presentation of resources, and there were a ton of people that were like, oh, I didn't realize that. So it's not that in some cases there aren't resources, it's that people aren't aware of them. I also know in working to your question of other regions, my production company started in Chicago, right? Huge metropolis, busy. But like, I mean, even for me to get into the tech space, to talk to the people about this idea, I'm still knocking on doors virtually and in real life, right? Whereas here, like, it's big fish to a pond, I don't know. I was in Miami for the last couple of months. Same thing, their tech world is exploding, right? And I'm chatting with people, but people are like, oh yeah, I get mine for that, right? So this is a particularly interesting ecosystem of entrepreneurs. And I'm really thrilled to call myself an OG Asheville, and I've been here for 20 years, but I did not realize these resources until the last 2 or 3 years? It's a great question. Thank you so much, Jeff.
I have a question, Rose.
Yes.
So what specific challenges in these conversations with women are you hearing about? What are the barriers of entry that your organization and your community are really trying to overcome right now?
Yes, super great question. So while we have been focusing locally, the scope of this as Lady Boss International is national, right? Like, or international, rather. And so what I noticed is that people are thinking like, oh, well, how could I even do that? So there's a little bit of a mindset thing, and like, even though we have Google and the internet and the ways to look these things up, just feeling the empowerment to think outside of the confines that maybe we have been raised in. So that's one piece. Other challenging pieces is just, I mean, the stats, right? Like, there are just implicit biases everywhere, and I'm just a little white Jewish lady, but like, I have seen them in my own world, and I have participated in putting them forward. And so it's like, where can we advocate for other people, not just women, but other people generally who maybe haven't had access? And speaking to like the epochs of women standing up and saying like, hey, we need to do it differently. Each time we've done that over the last 200 years, we sometimes forget all of the women. And so I want to be really specific in saying, while this is a platform designed to be a safe and curated space for people who identify as women, that whole month where I was canceled by every possible liberal about not being inclusive enough, preach, it was fine. But ultimately, thinking about if we have more women that are empowered, that have the access to these things, the world will be better for everybody here. And so that's a mindset thing and an accessibility thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jess.
Any other questions?
I've got a question. I want to hear about some of your success stories that you've had in the first year.
Thanks, Erica. It's good to think about success stories because there's a lot of pivots in the last year where it's like, wow. So one off the top of my head, we've done 6 events in the last 3 months, which is what crazy people do. But I've been really missing extrovertingly. And so we've done an event online, an event in person in 3 different regions. And so that's been really successful. We've grown our audience and our membership from those specific demographics, but also as I head to Chicago next week, we'll be excited to talk to more of those people in the tech incubators, and same for Miami and for Asheville too. It's like, I have really good communities in each of those cities. And so the expansion has been really beautiful, and to hear people's response has been awesome. Other success stories is literally the DMs I get, which I'll get a little weepy if I actually say that any of them verbatim, but ultimately things like, you're changing my life right now, or this programming is, I never even knew that I needed to know this, or holy cow, I feel so empowered, or oh my gosh, I went and talked to my boss right after that conversation and felt more empowered to like have a hard conversation, and they were super open to it. And so it's just like little things like this that are making huge differences for the momentum of the project, but more importantly, for the momentum of women to feel compelled to run their business better, or to the next level, or to even start a business. Thanks for that question, Erica.
Great. Yeah, I think the small wins are really important.
Did you have a question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you are.
Thanks. Hey, I'm Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Wondering if you could say more about how you think this platform will help businesses get kind of creating more social justice.
Ooh, yes, Kate, I love this. Okay, so as I mentioned, I went out on a limb. You know, I don't have any kids. I'm not married, so maybe this is easier for some folks than others. But I was like, yeah, I will take that fixed 30 at 3.5%. I'll take it. Can I get 2 more, please? And so I couldn't help it. I mean, I was like ugly crying most of 2020. I spent time out in Portland, Oregon, documenting that whole Lord of the Flies saga. And I just felt like it's my job as somebody who has access to this money and who has this color skin to put my money where my mouth is, because I can sit and go, oh, this is awful, or oh my gosh, well, what are we doing? But I need to do something. I've been called the sledgehammer in the past. Like, let's go, let's get the praxis on this thing and make it happen. And so the goal with the way this is founded, as I mentioned how Facebook was founded, is that the integrity of this platform is such that I want to do something different with my business. And so when I've invited other women, when we're putting this into orbit in beta, I asked specifically women who were already thought leaders, change makers with their business, whether they were working in money management, money mindset. I have a marriage counselor on the platform. I've got bookkeepers. I mean, a variety of different people, but who fundamentally want to see business done differently because they themselves have experienced something that is like, I know I can do this different and I can do this better, or they themselves have already, had a full career in corporate and didn't really enjoy climbing the corporate ladder. A woman we hired, Dr. Amanda Bell, local to Asheville here. I like to quote her often. She says, you can't just put paint on the patriarchy and expect it to be different. And so that is something that in our stats, we're noticing that like, okay, yeah, sure, we can just keep going, ladies, but like, F that, like, we don't want this same system because it's not actually fully supportive of us. And this is not a TED Talk, so I won't go into the like hormones of it all and how that just like doesn't work. But ultimately, these same women want to see it done differently. And so it's like any social justice movement, like any movement of any sort, it takes time. And the sledgehammer over here is like, let's go, come on already. But I thank you for that question, Kate.
Love your energy there. This is
Thank you.
more powerful than coffee.
Thank you. Is it Wasta?
Wasta, yes.
Good
Nice to
morning,
meet you,
Wasta.
from Brooklyn. So you spoke about your successes, which kudos to those. So on the flip side, what would you say is like your biggest challenge, and what kind of support would you like to see come through to help you test that?
Thank you, Jewish boy from Brooklyn. Well, I'll just answer the question with boy. Challenges. Okay, so right, like I was inside the internet. I had the wonderful opportunity to do an artist in residence out at the grounds of Old Black Mountain College. I've been a longtime leafer, and so I was deep inside the internet for 6 months working on this thing. And so was everybody else, so it worked out. Not that they were working on it, but everybody was inside. Now, everybody's outside, right? So we have this awesome, 3-month round of incredible events. We did a ton of PR, popping on stages like this. People are like, yes, 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 they're signing up. But the actual engagement is going down. And so getting creative on how to keep people engaged. Had a number of team meetings in the last 2 days, and my team, by the way, is also international, which is a challenge because, well, Zoom is cool until it's not, right? So managing a team on the internet in different time zones, I'm like, oh my God. But ultimately, I also know this is I like to quote my boy Napoleon Hill, I'm a serial boat burner. This isn't my first rodeo. And so I know things take time, although I don't like to spend the time, I like to just make it happen. Those are some of my challenges in the first year, right? And my tech team the other day mentioned to me, Rose, we did in 9 months, well, I guess this was a few months ago now, we did in 9 months what most startups do in 3 years. And I was like, yes, we did. Yes, we did. So it's part of it is time, part of it is tech, part of it is COVID, right? Like I was fairly certain as I was putting this money and this energy into this last year at this time that we would probably have different rounds of not COVID necessarily, but if anyone's paying attention to any of the news, there's a lot of dumpster fire, train wreck, shit show things happening that might require us to go inside again. And so having an online presence for anyone in business is going to be helpful moving forward, I think, but also a community, right? I think a big challenge during COVID for a lot of us was going, okay, where is everybody? And not the people I live with, not those people, right? And needing a little space and time and place to connect with other communities. So those are the pillars that remind me that the challenges are usually temporary to keep forward. So thank you for that question.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. So I apologize. I missed most of your presentation. So you may have already covered this, and I love your energy, by the way. But I was wondering who your demographics are for women. I mean, women have kind of broad spectrum, and I found as a mother of 3 young children that it's hard to start a business and do all that, right? Because you mentioned you're not currently married or have young children. So there are some extra challenges with mothers, and especially when you're talking about tech space. So I've been trying to do tech companies for like 3 years, and I feel like I'm on the slow track because of my stage of life.
Thank you for that question. What's your name?
Maui, by the way, Maui May.
Maui? Cheers, thank you. Okay, so yes, I appreciate that question, and I also want to say no tracks, no slow track, no fast track. This is what my business coaches tell me, and I'm like, come on, man, or woman. But ultimately, our demographic is 28 to, I say 68, but we have a couple people on our platform that are like, I'm over 68, I'm not telling you. I'm like, okay, great. Dr. Jackie, our marriage counselor, she's amazing. And so because what I found, even back to our conversations in real life in 2017, we had people at various stages of their career. We had one of my favorite, what was her name? Dr. Rabia Wahia. She is now into her third act, right? Like she was a biochemist turned patent attorney, going back to school to determine the next act. And so that to me, she said, you don't want to hear from me. I'm old and I'm washed up by now. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And you're doing incredible things in each lane that you sort of segue into. And so it's been really cool to hear from different women at different stages of their career and to also show that, like, I mean, unfortunately or unfortunately, it's just gone are the days where you get a job out of college and you have that job for 40 years, you get your 401k or your retirement, and then you're just like, okay, going to Florida. Like, this just doesn't happen anymore, right? And so even more so, like, more and more gig workers, you know, many of the people on our platform have what they call their silent investor, their day job, and then their side hustle, they've got kids, and it's hats off to you for being a mom. Like, I don't know how people do that, actually. I'm like, well, that's a lot, because I have like more than one bag every time I leave the house. Anyways, that's not true. So just from the standpoint of starting where you're at and putting like the tech challenges, I've also been a little surprised that many of the challenges that are really simple, what I would say like more of a simple solve, that we're taking a little more time on the platform to make sure that like everybody is at the same level of proficiency using the platform. Again, I move very quickly, and so it's like, okay, let's slow down and make a screen recording of like where these buttons are and how to actually navigate. But even that, we have tech support for people who are wanting to open their shop, and I'm like, but how do I even do that? One of our marketing campaigns is to kill Kajabi. I don't know if you're familiar with Kajabi, but it's like an online place to host your courses. So on the Backstage Pass, we have the Lady Boss Lounge, which is just like your regular feed, like a Twitter or a Facebook or whatever. We have our library, Lady Boss Library, which is like topics, how to start a podcast, what to ask your accountant, how to get involved politically, like, so just different card catalog, if you will, OG. And then the whole e-commerce area is the LBI mall. And so a lot of women are coming to the platform being like, I've really been wanting to build my course. I want to put together this, you know, how to do this 101, but I just don't know where to start. And so we actually built into our experience tech support. And that's me right now and my tech team. So, you know, we have a huge window of how we can help people make that jump if they're like, oh, I don't really know what to do. And then there's just time, right? Like, you know, you have 3 kids, like you need another day, another hour in a week. So we just try to make it, you know, as resourceful as possible, given all of the different conditions that we might find ourselves in as women in this. Thanks for that question.
Other questions?
Awesome.
Hey, thanks, Rose. Really appreciate your vulnerability. Let's give her a hand, right? Question for you, burning desire. What can we, as a community, do for you? What are your needs? What are you asking from us?
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jess. And I forgot to say hello to the friends on the internet land, because I live inside the internet, so hello, internet friends. Things you all can do to support me, like I said, share the platform with the lady bosses you know. That first QR code, if we go back to the very first slide, it's also laminated and circulating around. Share that with your friends, your colleagues. Membership at the moment is $1. $1. Now, I'm not thrilled with that, but you know, my counsel was like, that's what you're doing. I'm like, okay. So share the membership with your friends, tell them about it, come backstage, check it out. If you're at a point where you're like, wow, I'm really interested to know how this lady's gonna take this further, and you wanna talk about sponsoring events or potentially being an investor. We're not quite at that stage yet, but I've been doing my homework on it, and I'm really excited to get to that stage. I want to talk to you. And so you can email, you can drop a DM, but sharing the word about what we're doing with people you think are interested in seeing this go further would be incredibly helpful. So thank you for that question, Jess.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Rose. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everybody.